Hi, I'm Chris, and this is the Queen Mary 2. Is an Atlantic crossing by luxury cruise liner just for rich folk with time on their hands? Or people like me who've saved up for a bucket list trip? Or is it something more people should consider? Sitting here in the bar on the Queen Mary 2, halfway across the Atlantic, I'm seriously wondering. Travelling across the Atlantic as a paying passenger has actually been a possibility since soon after explorers like Columbus discovered the Americas. It carried on for 300 years of arduous voyages under sail until 1838, when Brunel's paddle wheel steamship, the Great Western, changed everything. I'm not sure how much of an upgrade that was in terms of comfort, but it began well over 100 years of increasingly faster and bigger ships. The glorious age of glamorous transatlantic travel only died out actually in the second half of the 20th century, when the public decided that they preferred to be cooped up in a jet airliner for a few hours over being wined and dined on a ship for several days. The market always tends to choose convenience over quality. Now there's only one transatlantic ocean liner left, Cunard's Queen Mary 2, which was launched in 2004 to replace the Queen Elizabeth II. It sails for most of the year from Southampton in England to New York and back again, and it's gorgeous, as well as huge. But in terms of getting across the Atlantic, is it still an alternative to flying, or is it just a curiosity? The passengers that I met on board were doing it for all sorts of reasons. There were people who were just doing the trip one way and then flying home as their holiday. There were people who'd added a week to their holiday to do the journey in style. And there were people who were just going one way for an extended stay or permanently, who liked the idea of the unlimited baggage allowance. It is the classy way to emigrate. If you've been on a cruise ship before, you'll know what to expect. It's 7 days wandering around a luxury hotel, basically. It couldn't be more different to 7 hours cramped up in a British Airways seat. The Queen Mary 2's operators, Cunard, take great pains to point out that the ship is a cruise liner, not a cruise ship. But the differences are largely technical. For example, a cruise liner might have to do its route out of the holiday season, so it's designed to withstand rougher weather. It also needs to maintain a decent speed, so it will be faster than the holiday cruise ships. As a passenger, you wouldn't really notice these technicalities though. What you might notice is that the Queen Mary 2 is extremely well geared up for things to do. Holiday cruise ships have loads of entertainment, of course, but they're usually empty during the daytime as their guests leave the ship and wander around that day's port destination. On the cruise liner, you can't get off, so the ship has to cater for guests looking for something to pass the time 24/7. So, while all the modern cruise ships have a big theatre, for example, the Queen Mary 2 has 2 of them, one of which is dedicated to daily lectures by guest speakers. The 150 seats are usually full for these. It also has a particularly large gym and the biggest spa area I've seen on any ship. It looks like it was fitted out by the same people who did the Aquasana spas you find at centre parks, which is pretty cool, by the way. Overall, I'd say that in terms of facilities, service and clientele, the Queen Mary 2 probably ranks alongside upper mid-range cruise lines like Celebrity, even if it tries to appear a bit more posh. Cunard has done a fantastic job of playing on its history. You can't turn a corner on the Queen Mary 2 without finding displays of memorabilia or museum-style boards recounting the glamour days of transatlantic liners. I probably spent hours reading these and almost certainly missed a few. I loved it, and the traditional decor really gives you a sense of occasion. But is it worth it? Of course, even if you have got the time to add a week onto your holiday across the Atlantic, you have to consider the cost. Cunard operates the ship like a hotel on a per room basis, so the journey is effectively nearly twice the price for solo travellers. But if you can share a cabin as a couple or as a family, things become more interesting. You can get a cabin for 2 from $1,500 to £2,000 or dollars, which is a lot, but probably only a few £100 or dollars more than you'd have to pay for your 2 airfares. That means you're getting 7 days in an all-inclusive luxury hotel for under £500 or dollars each. On dry land, show me somewhere, anywhere, offering that level of accommodation, with food and entertainment included too, for less than 3 or 4 times that figure? Okay, you still wouldn't exactly associate the term bargain with a transatlantic crossing on the Queen Mary 2, but do the maths. The cost I quoted is for the cheapest cabins on the ship. You can pay several times that, just as you can if you don't want to travel in cattle class on a plane, but I figured that on a transatlantic voyage there wasn't much advantage in having a room with a big window or private balcony, as you're not exactly going to be gazing out of your cabin over the sort of romantic destinations you get on a holiday cruise. It's just ocean, ocean, and more ocean. Lovely, but go up on deck if you want to gaze at that. I did. The lowest cost cabins are inside ones with no windows. If you're an irregular sleeper, it's amusing to guess what the time is when you wake up. Is it 5 a.m, 11 a.m? You'll need a clock. I quite enjoyed that. The cabin is comfortable and has TV, a serviceable bathroom, and like the rest of the ship, it's kept spotlessly clean day and night. The room service is impeccable. Honestly, you won't get service like you get on the Queen Mary 2 in many hotels on land that cost a fortune. Away from that, the lowest cost inside cabin guests get the same amenities as the passengers in most of the rest of the ship, apart from a few people in some upper class areas. There's a choice of restaurants, from the self-serve buffet to the beautiful main formal dining room, and a handful of smaller venues. Choose wherever you like. The ship has a couple of formal nights on each voyage where you're expected to dress up for dinner in formal wear. If you don't fancy that or haven't got room to bring that sort of gear along, you'll have to eat dinner elsewhere, not in the main dining room, but that's no hardship. On other nights, the evening dress code is just smart, which means no shorts or t-shirts. As for your fellow passengers, well, they're the type of people you'd expect to meet at a fairly posh resort hotel, but that also means they're probably polite and well behaved. I like them. On my voyage it seemed to be mainly a mix of British and Americans, with a few Aussie, Chinese, French and German passengers making up the numbers. Most seemed to be in their 60s or 70s, but there were a few younger people too, although almost no kids. You can keep yourself to yourself quite easily, or you can join others at dinner, at entertainment events or at the bars. It's pretty easy to join in and people are very friendly. You'll also find some really useful amenities that aren't normally available on cruise ships, such as self-service laundrettes, as well as ironing facilities. Mundane, I know, but a real lifesaver. There's internet access, but it's charged by the day and it's expensive, so be careful of that. There are all sorts of reasons why people might not want to cross the Atlantic slowly in a floating first-class hotel, most notably if they have a fixed amount of holiday time and want to spend it all at the destination. I understand that. Just get the journey over with. But as I sit here in a lounge bar with piano music playing and a beer to hand, sea travel really does seem to make a lot of sense for anyone who can add 7 days to their holiday, even in the 21st century. If you found this video interesting, it's one of a series I'm making as I travel from England to the west coast of America and then up to Canada, all without flying or driving. Watch more on my channel, and if you enjoyed it, do give the video a like.